Good morning. Welcome to WoW with AI, the podcast by AuxoAI, where we explore how artificial intelligence is reshaping the enterprise world, right from strategy to execution. I am Arvinder, part of AuxoAI, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Bharat Belavadi, Head of IT India for Western Digital. Bharat is a recognized leader in driving generative AI based enterprise transformation. And while I have the pleasure to have him on board, today we'll be diving into how global technology organizations are turning AI from experimentation to the transformation, bridging the data, people, and platforms to deliver some real impact. Welcome, Bharat, to the podcast.
Yeah. Thanks, Arvinder. Happy to be there on the call. Just a quick introduction about myself. I lead the advanced analytics by function here in India, which comprises of a lot of AI stuff, both traditional classical AI ML followed by generative AI. There's also applied math in terms of operation research and digital twin and rest of the technology that comes with that. My additional responsibility is also to manage the IT at the site and different service line that we have within the IT and help our customers or internal clients to manage their business. And very happy to be really at the time when there is a boom on AI, and especially being in a data storage company, we're definitely seeing a lot of new expansions, new, I would say, ideas coming out, which is challenging the traditional way of doing things. And I feel that it's really, I'm lucky to be part of that journey, especially at this point in time, and see what difference we can make to the world. Yeah.
I'm very excited. I know, Bharat, you're also driving the vision towards building the AI shared services and
Mhm.
how those will manifest the transformation the AI can bring to the table. Let me ask you a very interesting question by starting. In the age of what we are calling the agentic AI now, making digital interactions seem like human interactions,
Mhm.
is one of the key factors. But what do you think are the ingredients which will go behind these digital interactions to seem like human one? And do you really see that it will shape the future of how we work, how we collaborate with others?
Great question. Yeah, definitely, because I'm seeing that from all spectrum of life. Things are becoming very human-like, especially with the AI. Before I go to the ingredients, I would say that I think if you look at a traditional AI, it's more like a search engine, right? You ask a question, you get a response, but you have to always restart your conversation, right? But agentic has all the past knowledge and conversation for a deeper reasoning, right? If you look at a child would ask a question like why the sky is blue, traditional AI will always give you a textbook answer. But if you can really assess the understanding, the comprehension, and gauge that of a child, you can probably give a better response, right? Bringing that analogy into your question about the ingredients, I would feel the number one is memory and context awareness, right? That's what is bringing a big difference. um, let's say that if we are having a coffee chat and we forget everything that we discussed yesterday, and every day's conversation is new, then it will become very robotic, right? So we need to make sure that we have a long-term memory, we understand all our past conversations, we build on that, then it becomes memory and context enabled for more fruitful, I would say, objective that we want to meet, right?
Yep.
The second, I would say, is the reasoning and adaptability, right?
Mhm.
Just take a simple example of our life. I mean, if I want to plan for a vacation, it's not just about looking at my calendar, but I need to make sure my kid's school calendar. I need to make sure that along with the flights, I'm booking my rental car, there's accommodation, so on and so forth. So where I'm going with that is AI needs to have a multi-variable reasoning, whether it's going to rain, not rain, what kind of gear I
Yep.
need to carry, all the stuff. So the reasoning and adaptability to that is another important stuff. And where it's emerging, the third one is the multimodal intelligence, I would feel, right? While talking to a colleague, it's not just about processing words, right? But it's
Mhm.
about looking at them, their hand movements, their facial expression, their body. Similarly, in the AI world, you're going to pick on these aspects of different types of data, whether it's video, whether it's audio, whether it's text, images, and so on and so forth. And that's where it will start getting into a more human like, thus you're able to comprehend that much better. I would say that these are the most important top three ingredient that is required to make it more human like.
Absolutely fantastic. So, what you mentioned is that we need context for continuity. What you
Right.
mentioned is we need reasoning and adaptability. What you also mentioned is that, we need the right data, but we need all format data, right? To make a very immersive, human-like interaction. Fantastic. This is super good. Um, but if I take this conversation forward, leading question
Mhm.
is if we can really mimic, human-like interactions with AI, it will be inevitable to say that AI will not only just assist humans, but it will also become part of the workforce, part of the enterprises. But the big question is that how every other person is gonna adapt to that. How can we structure the teams? How will we manage these teams? Right? Is this future already there, or do you see this is coming, in the next few weeks, months, years? What's your view?
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing. I mean, this is already there in my perspective. I think there's a lot of experimentation already being done. I also, when you go to a San Jose airport, I see a big banner of Salesforce really talking about like digital FT model in the future and stuff, right? So I think this is not a distant future. This is this augmented AI, augmented workforce, or a team that may want to call is already there with certain level of experimentation, right? It also depends on the industries where you can apply really SaaS based or a pure software organization is much easier to adopt. But probably into companies like us, which are manufacturing, there's obviously some journey that you have to make to get there, right? But I think it's all about how this whole agentic AI can bring that collaboration, learning, decision making, and really reshape the organization, how the organization would operate, right? I would say to your question, how this is evolving, yes, through a pod model, right? We see that the technology changes every day. It's very difficult for somebody to really understand the technology all the time and keep evolving with that. Yes, to a certain extent, we expect, but it's not really practical most of the time. So I would say it's always a good idea to have a collection of both human and agents, which is like in a pod model where you have much higher authority and autonomy to manage the variability, right?
Hmm.
Whether from a drudgery kind of work to a more high value added work, then I can really see what an agent can do versus where I really need a human to come in, right? Let's say all AI handles all data heavy and repetitive tasks, or let's say some of the predictive tasks. Well, I would still have my people figure out the most creative and strategic and creative thinking. And I'm sure, like you might have read an article about, McKinsey, which has used OpenAI a lot
Yeah.
already, right? Totally immersed into it, right? So that is where the creativity and the strategic thinking is coming using those augmented tools. And also in the last, I would say it's not just a passive tool, it's kind of participates in your daily journey. One example is, let's say when we have a NCG or a new college grad, they go to a journey to learn
Hmm.
through an osmosis, right? Sitting
Yeah.
next to people. But just imagine the same thing an agent is doing over the time on certain activities, then definitely you can bring that combination on. And we are also looking at some of those aspects, but at least in my circle and other leaders that I've been discussing, this is definitely something that people are trying it out. And I don't see a distant future for this becoming a reality.
Fantastic. I think let me recapture what you're saying is that, you know, this is not a distant future. This is happening now. The technology is evolving at such a pace, that keeping locksteps with that is not easy, right?
Correct.
And while there is such a massive innovation which has happened in the last 2.5, 3 years, now my next question to you is being a leader in a large corporation, it's always a struggle between innovation and building shared services models right around that. And I know you're building one with the AI shared services. How do you see the businesses can structure themselves in a shared services model where both efficiency and innovation are taken in a very balanced way? not not being repulsive to each other.
Correct. No, I'm sure this is not just us. I mean, this is a problem that everybody is facing today, right? And I would say the reason for that is there's also a lot of expectation building to move fast, right? And adopt technology and move fast. Yes, there are still questions about the value and stuff, but it's going to a much deeper level of adoption. And I'm sure that we'll get to a point where the value is also significantly high, right? To your question, I feel maybe about two, 3 points which are driving this, at least for us, right? Number one is redundant AI investments.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of redundant investments happen where you start seeing like thousand flowers blooming, right? I mean, very
Yeah.
similar experimentations that you're doing, whether it's a bot or some other way of having a productivity improvement, right? Think about like how do I move from a everyday AI to a game changer AI, right?
Hmm.
Where I'm at least giving those common productivity tools, then getting into a much agentic where I'm bringing my knowledge workers, helping them with a lot of productivity gain, as well as more agentic driven workflows. An example I could give is probably a software development lifecycle for an engineering for, increasing their feature velocity, right?
Hmm.
And then comes to a game changer where you can really predict how your organization structure needs to be. I think it's a now I would wish to have one bot within my organization structure, right, in the near future, at least to thrive that model. So I would say redundancy in AI investment is one. Second, what we also feel is scalability, right?
Hmm.
Yes, we definitely need to give a playing ground for people or playing field for people to experiment, right? But at the same time, if there are solutions which are matured enough, then how can you scale that quickly within the organization? Because see, there's always new ways of working for many, right? From operations point of view and all. IT and all, we understand what technology means, but adoption becomes a little difficult. So whichever is adopted and there's value realization, scale them very quickly, right? That's the second one. Third is around, I would say, being more consistent with the AI governance, right? Because you don't want to get into a lot of compliance risk with a lot of such things. Then it becomes difficult. The business themselves will not know what to use, what not to use, right? So from a shared services, I would say from a utility point of view, providing a very scalable AI infrastructure and also literacy,
Yeah.
because these are not something that every function can do and continuously do because the technology itself is moving so fast. So that's where there would be a natural inclination towards, hey, I want to have a shared services which will help me manage the variability of capacity, whether it's a fixed capacity or variable depending on your
Yeah.
business. And second is, well, I want to still have a lot of innovation or prototyping capability, but once I have that, I need a full stack team to go and execute it
Mhm.
for me,
Yeah.
right? And that way they know the platform, they know the tools, they know what has worked. I mean, it's all coming out of their scar tissues, right, that they develop
Yeah.
over delivering these kind of solutions, is where it will really bring a lot of value. I think are the some of the key drivers I would see will make a shared service much more sense for the organization.
I think this is very insightful, Bharat. I know we are, at the time for the episode one, but what it is encouraging me a lot more is that I would love to do another episode with you to really talk about the pragmatic approach where the rubber meets the road, that
Mm.
how is technology being leveraged in, what technologies you are relying on, what infrastructure you're relying on, what use cases become critical for you to deliver impact, how the adoption is being perceived within the organization, how your peer group is thinking about problems like this. So with that note, I would love to request for another episode with you, but this is very insightful. Thanks for taking time out, to talk about how AI is shaping not only our lives, but the lives at our workplace as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are all pretty fortunate to be experiencing this in our lifetime. So happy to have a conversation on that. And just a last note from my end is that it's not just the dual structure that we are talking about, but it will also have to be really defined in terms of how do we standardize our AI services versus also having an innovation part, not just delivering.
Yep.
right? So that's the exciting world, that we want to also explore. So, happy to have those conversation, next.
Yep. Let's meet soon again. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.